Hi folks, Darren Stewart here with Stewart & Stewart Attorneys. Welcome back. We have Nick Wagner with us here today. Talk to us a little bit about some unique driving laws, some unique laws here in Indiana. It's always fun to talk about. We don't get too many calls on this, but as lawyers, we find humor in different things like this, and so we thought we'd share a little bit about you. He's done so much homework for this, he wrote it down in a notebook.
Well, not really, but I mean, look, we all know about things like texting and driving, and some of the ones that we see all over the news and the billboards don't text. Okay, we get that, but what about some of these more unorthodox or stranger laws that we may not be aware of? And a lot of times when people think of laws, they think of a black letter law in a book somewhere. But a lot of this stuff is case law. And case law, what that does is it creates new responsibilities. It's a court issuing an opinion saying that in this situation someone could be responsible. That's just like a law. And for us, when we're evaluating a case, we're looking at that, and we're looking at all the different scenarios that there are. And one thing I always tell people is that, remember this: you can be sued for being nice. People are like, wait, what does that mean?
That's never happened to me.
No, it probably hasn't. I'm sure it hasn't. But it may, in the future. I don't know. But there's a decision that came out from the Court of Appeals. It was Key versus Hamilton, and I had to write down a couple things here, so I made sure I was accurate on it. Not that I'm never inaccurate, but there's something that we're all familiar with. We're in a long line of traffic, and someone wants to get out from a parking lot or something in front of us. Most of us, what we do is we stop, leave a space for that person to get out and pull out and continue on. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay? It's the courtesy wave. Come on, you're good,
Being nice, waving them out.
Being nice, waving them out. And I suppose it can go both ways. I make the joke of saying you can be sued for being nice, but the reality is this: if let's say you're driving along, minding your own business, going the speed limit, and there's a line of traffic next to you as well, you're moving, this line's not, someone comes out and pulls out, not only do they cross that stop traffic next to you, they continue to pull out in front of you, and bam.
We certainly see that in YouTube videos a lot. We see that. My wife says to me, I've been in that scenario any number of times, and I don't leave a gap. And she'll say, well, it'd be nice if you just left that. I said, I'm not nice in this scenario.
Right.
I'm not going to leave a gap. In fact, I've always pointed out to her, I said, you watch next time you see a police officer, and I've pointed out when I've seen in traffic, they don't leave a gap.
Right.
They know not to do that.
No, and it may feel like you're not being nice or whatever, but you don't want to end up in that position. So going back to my example, though, if you're the one minding your own business and someone crosses over the lane next to you, comes out in front of you, and there's a collision, well, not only is that person who has pulled out and caused the collision responsible for your injuries and your medical bills, potentially so is the person who waved them through.
The nice wave out guy.
The nice wave out guy. And that's because what the Court of Appeals has said in their decision was that what you've done in that situation, you're basically assuring somebody that it's okay to do something.
Yeah, and at least you're creating that scenario for them.
Right.
It wouldn't have been there to begin with.
Right. And all you're doing is just being nice by saying, you can come on out. But that person pulling out is going to take your word for it. And if it's not safe, you can be responsible for anybody's injuries. You could be responsible for the person who you waved out. You can be responsible for the person who they hit.
So we have to be in traffic. We have to be willing to take that shame or that attitude that you might get from people around you, other drivers, that you don't leave the gap, that you're being rude, because in the long run, it's best for the person who's trying to turn left. And I always say, don't turn left here. If the traffic's like this and so heavy, go on up the road, make a right-hand turn someplace,
right,
so that you can get turned back around and come in the direction you want to go.
Yeah.
It's much safer. But I look at it as this: I'm not putting that person in a risky situation.
No, I mean, but the bottom line is we get these wave-through cases all the time.
Yes, we do.
And so that's what causes me to say, we got a lot of people calling us about wave-throughs. People probably shouldn't be doing that.
And you know what happens to the wave-through driver after the impact, after the crash happens, and they wave that person out and the crash happens? That wave-through person just kind of scurries on up the road like a bilge rat. They don't stick around. It's interesting. They don't stay in witness for the wreck because they saw it happen right in front of them, because they know, in my opinion, that they shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's okay to be it's okay to be courteous, right? Obviously, just don't be too courteous, I guess, when you're on the road. But yeah, there's all kinds of other little, that scenario there. That's a situation that involves, I'm talking about the Court of Appeals and all this, but there's other just straight up traffic laws too, and there's some wacky ones out there that you may not be familiar. They're not wacky; you just may not know about them. You see a lot of people. One thing that I see a lot is and I've seen it recently, especially with intersections changing to roundabouts and so forth. Is people switching lanes really close to an intersection, and that can create obviously a lot of danger, but it's also illegal.
The law says so many feet.
Yeah, 100 feet, and if you switch lanes within that 100 feet, you can get a ticket for it. And
why is that? What is it that they're trying to eliminate?
Well, there's a lot going on at an intersection at any given time. You've got different lanes of travel. You've got cars turning. You've got cars going. The law is basically saying, look, just wait until you get through the intersection to change lanes or switch lanes well ahead of that 100 feet, so that you're not. You don't want people who are going to be turning to be having to guess what lane you're going to be in once you get to the intersection. So that's one. I mean, there's others, obviously, but there's other things too that I see on a daily basis that, and I'm sure you do too, that cause concern. And, another one is using private property to avoid an intersection. You get up to the long line and, oh, look, there's a gas station right there. I'll just kind of pull over and then exit out the other side of the gas station and avoid that light.
I've always referred to that. You remember the gas stations, they were called ESSO?
Yeah.
The people that cut through the gas station to avoid the traffic light.
Yeah.
The SO blank blank.
Yeah.
Is what you call that person. But we know what you're talking about. So you cut through a parking lot of a business because the light's red and you're zipping to, you're going to make a right-hand turn, so you cut through. Yeah. And then you're endangering people in that parking lot. And now, is that on the books as illegal?
Yeah, you can get a ticket for it.
Okay.
You can get a ticket. In most states, you can get a ticket for I think it's intentionally utilizing private property to intentionally avoid a traffic signal.
Interesting.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that drives me nuts is pedestrian walkways. And people, the cities have put up so many flashing lines. They even put up signs that says stop for pedestrian in a crosswalk. It's the law. Right. Yes, that's correct. It is the law, but it's really not a complete statement of the law. Right. In a crosswalk, pedestrians have the right of way if they're in the crosswalk in the roadway and when you're approaching. Yeah. If they're standing on the curb at the side of the street where the crosswalk is and you're approaching, the vehicle has the right of way and should continue on. The pedestrian then, once it's clear and safe to do so, they can then enter the crosswalk on the roadway to start crossing the street. And then when they've entered the crosswalk and you're approaching, you need to slow down. Right. But what happens is people literally will just step right out in front of you thinking that they're entitled to walk right out in front of you, and people are slamming on their brakes. And the second, third, fourth car back, they're driving along, not anticipating someone walking right out in the middle of the street, right. And everybody's slam on their brakes. So the general rule is the vehicle has the right of way when a pedestrian standing on the side of the street. And that includes standing in the median. As long as they're in a safe place, they have a duty to wait until traffic's clear to start entering and crossing the roadway. Yeah. Once they've occupied that crosswalk in the roadway safely, they have the right of way. But so it's a frustration for me because you're coming up to a crosswalk, roundabouts, different places, and people come approaching it, see somebody standing on the side of the road, and they just slam on the brakes and stop real quick for them. Right. And it stops traffic. It impedes the flow of traffic. And I know people, I continue on in a safe way. I continue on when I'm in that scenario, but you get dirty looks like you're supposed to have stopped. But I think part of the problem with that is the signs that have been put up with they push the button and the flashing yellow lights come on. It says it's the law, you have to stop, and they're not legally in the roadway crosswalk at that time. Right. So, I mean, I even see police officers stop there too because I think they're concerned about getting complaints and things like that. Yeah. But I wish that would be clarified because it's not a good traffic flow pattern. It's misleading. It can cause wrecks. People have wrecks, and the person who's not anticipating somebody walking right out in front of them, somebody rear ends them, and you got a mess to deal with. Yeah. So anyway, that's an area that causes some confusion, I think, for a lot of people. Yeah. So what else did you find?
Well, I don't know. I remembered you telling me that it may be illegal to eat popcorn in the Carmel city limits after midnight. Is that still
that
on the books?
true?
I thought it was.
I was just having popcorn at about 11:59 last night.
Oh,
so I think I finished.
You're good.
I think I'm
You're good. As long as your last bite came before midnight.
And if it was after that, I plead the fifth.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. So anyway, I do know there's a law in the books in Beech Grove, Indiana, that makes it illegal. I believe it's a misdemeanor to eat watermelon in a public park. And it's been around for a long time, and I wish I had exact dates on it. I think it's still on the books. I don't think it's been repealed.
Well, you know why that is.
I don't know.
Well, I don't think it applies to seedless watermelons.
Ah, it's the seeds.
I think the legislature put an exception in there afterwards because it's the seeds. They don't want watermelons growing all over the
You know,
park.
I didn't read all the minutia from the
Yeah, I know.
justices. Is
It's
why
the
they
fine
put
print.
that on the books. But
It's the fine
seed
print.
thing.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, we're gonna put together a video with a lot of weird laws that are still on the books. And why they were originally put on the books, but laws that you would probably chuckle about right now that when you realize they're on the books. And we're going to put together a video on that in the upcoming near future, so please watch for that. Thanks for sharing with us today, Nick. Appreciate it. All right, have a good day. Give us a call if you have any questions about weird laws. We're your people to talk to.